Hi, welcome to the first video. This is 6th grade art, and we are going to be doing our first project for the period. So, our first project is we are going to be learning about an artist named Pablo Picasso. He is a Spanish painter. Some of his paintings are right here. He does paintings that are very different from what you normally see. His paintings have a specific style. It's a mixture between abstract and realism. Realism is when a piece of art looks just like something that you see in real life. Almost so close that it maybe even looks almost like it was a photograph. Abstract is when it's kind of like all over. It could be different colors, it could be different shapes, but it doesn't really look like a specific object. So Pablo Picasso's pieces, they don't look like normal human beings. If you saw this person walking down the street, you'd be like, looking again, like, who is that? Like, because they wouldn't look normal. You don't see people like this. So they're a little bit abstract and a little bit real. So the term for that is called representational. Representational is a type of art that is a little abstract, a little realism, but you can tell what it is. So even though there's all these crazy colors and shapes, you can still kind of tell that these are people. So that is what Pablo Picasso's artwork is. It's a type of realism. So what we're going to be doing is making Pablo Picasso inspired masks. These are some pictures that I found on the internet to show you guys some examples. And then I also have an example here of one that I made when I was in middle school, actually, which is pretty cool. So you should have picked up your art box from school. Thanks for Jimmy's Pizza for donating these boxes. Inside we have a clay slab, some slip, a chunk of clay, and then we have our clay tools. And we also have newspaper. So the first thing you want to do is protect the space that you're working on. So you're going to take your newspaper out, unfold it so you have a space to work on so you don't make too much of a mess. Then you're going to unwrap your piece of clay. Okay? We have the clay in a plastic bag really tight so it stays moist. You want your clay to stay wet and moist so it doesn't dry out, because when it dries out then you can't work on it. So I have some wet paper towels in here as well to help keep it wet. I also, if you are at home, would grab a container of water and maybe some extra paper towels just in case you need it. So this is a slab of clay. It's rolled really thin, really flat. And this is what we're going to be using to build our mask on. So the first thing you're going to want to do is grab your needle tool. And we are going to be cutting out the shape of our mask. So if you see here, the shape of my mask was kind of a curve, but then it was flatter on the top. For this one, I think I'm going to do a little bit different. So I think I'm going to do, so when you're going to cut it out of here, I would save a little strip on the top that you can use to cut out your facial features, and then cut your shape out of the rest of it. So I'm going to kind of do a funky shape. Alright, so then after you cut this out, you can save this piece as well for building on your mask. So this is my shape. Now that I have my shape, it's up to you, but you have the option of using your clay tools to draw some patterns in it first. So maybe you want to add some texture to the face before you put the facial features. So I'm just going to add a little texture right away. because that's going to make my mask more interesting. So I'm drawing some lines this way and this way. You could do pretty much any pattern you want. Maybe I want to do some more lines this way. I also have some other tools, like this poker. Maybe I want to put some polka dots here. You don't have to do this step, but it's kind of fun because it adds extra interest and it makes your mask a little bit more interesting. And it's also just kind of fun to do something different. Maybe I want to add kind of this shape with the end of my popsicle stick. Use the tools that you have in your box. If you look at the tools, sometimes you can use them in ways that you don't even expect. So try to experiment a little bit and be creative. That's our goal here. All right, I think that's enough. I'm just gonna leave this corner blank. So what I recommend doing is doing the facial feature that's in the middle of your face first. So I'm gonna start with my nose. Now, if you want to draw on a piece of paper your plan for your mask before you actually start doing it, that's fine too. I actually recommend that because then you know what you're doing before you start cutting and using your clay. So I didn't do that, but I may look at some of the examples that I had printed out when I started. So the first thing I'm going to do is make a nose. I think for my nose, I'm just gonna do kind of 2 triangle shapes. I'm gonna cut them out of my extra clay. And I think I'm gonna put them right there. I kinda like that. Okay, next thing I'm gonna do is a mouth. So you can do your eyes next, or you can do your mouth. It's your project, you do whatever you feel comfortable with. For my mouth, I think I'm gonna do some big puffy lips. So I think that's gonna be my bottom lip. And then I'm gonna do kind of a B shape for the top of my lip, okay? And then when you're putting it on your mask, if it goes off the edge a little bit too, that's fine. Kind of makes it more interesting. So I'm just laying my stuff on here first before I put it down for sure, kind of seeing where it looks good. So I like that. So now I think I'm gonna move on to some eyes. So let's see what I have left over for clay. I think I might make a circle for one of my eyes. Kind of hard to make circles in clay, but try your best. It doesn't have to be perfect. There's no perfect circle. Okay, so I think I'm gonna use that for my one eye. And then let's see what other scraps I have here. Maybe I'll do a little square for this side. And then maybe I can do like some cool eyelids for this one. So when you're making your project, you don't have to make it the same as me. You can use some shapes that I'm doing, or you can do completely different ones. It's your project, so you make it how you want it. I'm just showing you an example. Okay, and then maybe I want to do like a little triangle shape for the bottom here. Cutting it out. There, that's kind of cool. I like that. So also what you can do is you can add eyebrows, you could add ears. It's totally up to you. I think I'm just gonna leave it like this for now, keep it simple. You can also add hair too if you want. But let's talk about how we are going to attach these pieces to our bottom and base, okay? So if you watched the clay video, in the first assignment in Google Classroom, we learned about slip, score, and slab. So what you do is you take your slab and you are going to score it. This is how we are going to attach it. And what I do is I put it down where it's gonna go, and I kind of lightly trace around where it's gonna go so I know where it's going. And then I also score this area where I'm attaching it. All right, you can do one direction and also the next direction. We do this so we can get a nice sturdy hold. And then you're gonna take your little container of slip. This is little bits of clay in water, and we use this as a glue. So you're gonna wanna take some on your fingers and get your piece of clay wet, and then also get the place where you're attaching it wet. And then you're gonna secure it. And what I do is I take one of my clay tools and I also kind of just pinch it down. Let me move this out of the way so you guys can see. Pinch it down, pushing it in, really making sure I'm connecting it well. So I can also do it on this side. Because once I stick this on here, I don't want it to go anywhere. I want it to stay right in place. Okay? And then you can kind of smooth it out. Also in your clay kit, you have a little sponge. You can get that wet. And if you got some real bumpy spots, you can use it to kind of smooth it out and make that seam look really nice. Okay? So you're gonna wanna do that with all of your pieces. After you get them attached, you can also add additional patterns to the top. So I like this circle eye, but I think I want to add some more pattern and interest to it. So what I'm gonna do, I think, is take the back of my little needle tool, and I'm gonna push it into this piece. And that's gonna add another pattern. And then maybe up here, I noticed that I don't have any eyelashes, so maybe I wanna add some eyelashes. So I might wanna take another one of my tools and push some eyelashes in here. Okay? So after you're done though, this is really important, after you're done, you have everything slipped and scored and secured onto your mask. You want to keep it on this piece of canvas on your board, on this little board that it was on. And you want to get your paper towels wet again, so dip it in your water, wring it out a little bit, okay? And then you're going to want to take it and put it on top. The reason why we're doing this is because we want it to stay wet until it gets to school. So you're gonna have to drop off your project at school. But we'll talk about that. I'll send an email about that. And then you're gonna wanna stick it back in your bag. Get all the air out of your bag and make sure you put it in tight. We want to keep all that moisture inside so our projects stay moist until they get to school so they don't dry out, so then they don't crack. And then you're going to want to put it back in your box. And this bag goes extra clay. I didn't use it, but I brought it and put it in your kits in case you need it. So if you don't need it, put it back in your box. Put all your tools back in your box. And your slip. And then when you are cleaning up your workspace, you can wash your hands in a regular sink, but I recommend, if you have any like big chunks of clay on your hands, getting them off your hands and scraping them into garbage first, so then all those big chunks don't go down your parents' sinks and drains, because we don't want your parents to have plumbing problems. So then you can just lift up your newspaper and throw that in the trash, and then you're all good. And that was our clay project. Can't wait to see them when they come to school.